Hey, hello, and welcome to the Parsha class, Parsha Korach 5786, with the Taam Dagan commentary regarding food and nutrition and health in the weekly portion. And this portion is Korach, which ostensibly, probably for most of you, you can't really imagine how food can play a part in all of this. But as we shall see very soon, from the very beginning and definitely until the end, the parsha is filled with ideas about food and nutrition that is relevant for all of us. So, with no further ado, let's get right into the source sheet, Parshat Korach, in the Tam Dagan, in which the Torah teaches about breakfast wine, almonds, salt, and more. So, the very first verse, chapter 16, verse 1. So he told you right from the beginning, right from the get-go. V'yikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram b'nei Eliyav v'On ben Pelet b'nei Reuven. Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahas, the son of Levi, with Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliyav, and On, the son of Pelet, sons of Reuven, took. It doesn't say what they took, and this is a famous point that a lot of the commentaries bring up, is that there's what indeed did he take? It doesn't say. So did he take hearts and minds? Did he take himself away from everybody else? Did he take too much onto himself, as Moshe later accuses him of? What is going on? So one answer from the Znaim Torah is food related. What did he take? He took something, right? By saying that Korach took something or someone, Hashem in this verse intends that Korach convinces people with inebriation. In other words, he takes people's hearts by giving them something. Drink is what he gave them. He got them drunk, and that's how they were able. That's how he was able to sway their minds, sway their opinions, and taking their hearts, which is a one of the methods. One of the problems with overuse of alcohol is that people can get people drunk to convince them of all kinds of things, which is probably why in a few verses we'll see, literally two verses from now, we'll see that wine is not appropriate for when you're trying to make a major decision, because your mind isn't all there. That your mind's been took, right? Your mind's been taken, and this is something that's one of the things, one of the interpretations of what it is that Korach took here in the very beginning. What did they do? The chapter 16, verse 3, V'kalu al Moshe al Aaron. They gathered, they assembled by Moshe and Aaron, V'yamru alehem Rav lachem. And they said to them, you've taken on too much. Right? Rav lachem, enough for you. Ki kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim. All of us are holy. U'b'tocham Hashem, and Hashem is among us. U'madua titnasu al kahal Hashem. And why are you making yourselves the Nasim? Why are you making yourselves the leaders of the Jewish people? Yeah, you shouldn't be the leaders. Maybe we should be the leaders. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. In other words, he's trying to get power. And it's important to note here that he's not entirely wrong that we are all holy. So what's wrong with his argument then? Maybe Moshe, maybe there shouldn't be a leadership. Maybe anarchy is the way to go. No leaders, everybody's equal. And the answer is because just being holy in and of itself is not reason enough to be a leader. You need even great people need leaders, simply put, and especially in this particular case, as Rav Hirsch points out, they weren't holy as in like they're on their highest level of spirituality. They were holy and a very high level of spirituality, but holiness just means the potential to grow. And so they had a lot of potential. Doesn't mean they were activating it. This parsha comes on the heels of Parshat Shlach, when the Jewish people were condemned to basically death in the Midbar. in the wilderness instead of going into the land of Israel as they were supposed to do. So these are not the greatest people of all time. I mean, maybe so far, but they haven't reached their full potential as of yet. Okay, but also, and this was a halachic point. There's Naim the Torah points out. You can also see this in the Taz in the Shulchan Aruch. Right? When it says all, it says kol adei kulam kadoshim. All of them are holy. All does not mean 100%, but can even refer to the majority. And that's something important for halacha. Usually, when we say all, it can be. I don't want to call it exaggeration or hyperbole, but it does not mean every single piece, right? If something is kosher, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there could even be non-kosher elements in something kosher, and that thing still be kosher. Right? Things can be batal, can be negligible. So, for example, here I can think of an easy example. The classic example is like some milk that falls into a cholent. So, if you can identify that milk, take it right out. That's great. But even if you can't identify it, if it's so small of an amount that the rest of the cholent overpowers it taste-wise, you can't even notice that it's there, which is we say is a ratio of 1 to 60. So that whole cholent, all of it is kosher. All 100%? No, 99.9%, whatever it is, less than more than 1/60th is kosher. 59/60ths are kosher, right? And that makes it all kosher. So that's a halachic principle that we see from this parsha as well. All right, as promised, chapter 16, verse 5. So all these people are gathering on Moshe, and what does Moshe say to them? Does he give them a reply like yes, yes, no, no? We're giving over the leadership, or you should not be the leaders. What is he saying? No, he says come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. Why? V'daber el Korach. He says to him. He responds back to Korach at el Kol Dato, to all of his followers, all of his company. Lemor, and he said, but Boker v'yoda Hashem et asher lo et hakodesh. In the morning, Hashem will show who are His and who is holy, v'hikriv alav, and who can come close to Him. V'et asher yivchar bo, and He was going to decide whom He is choosing. Yakriv elav, to bring close to Him. But yeah, Hashem needs time to decide. He needs to look over the resumes. What's happening? Why is there a pause? Like, give me an answer right now, Moshe or Hashem. Why wait? You need 5 to 7 business days. What's happening here? So Moshe's response, according to Rashi, Moshe responds that they have to return the next day with their argument, because at this point, this is the morning, and Moshe just eaten his breakfast, and with breakfast, of course, comes wine. Wine is part of breakfast, according to the way people used to eat. So says Rashi. Of course, he's a vintage, so it's good for business to. I'm kidding, but it's certainly seems like it would be good for business for people to drink wine every morning. Maybe they did that in France. I don't know. But the point is that he had just drunken wine, and says the Gurari explains that that's not an appropriate time to decide halacha. We've said this before, by the way. We said this way back in Parshat Acharemot, or Shmini, right? I think in Parshat Shmini, where we talked about the deaths of Aaron's sons. That part of at least one of the explanations for why they died is that they brought a foreign fire into the Kodesh because they were inebriated, they were drunk, whether they were drunk on actual wine or just drunk emotionally or whatever it was. They're considered to have been drunk, and a Kohen is not allowed to drink before doing the avoda. That's where that law comes from. And similarly, a posek is not allowed to make decisions of what's kosher, what's not kosher, what's right, what's wrong. We don't make halachic decisions because of from after drinking wine. And if this is the time that Moshe used to drink wine, or if that was common practice, at least from the time of Moshe through the time of Rashi, at least, so a good morning drink of wine, right? So that would be an inappropriate time for him to make that decision, and then therefore he gives Korach uh, time to come back the next day, presumably when he's not had his wine yet. Okay. Chapter 16, verse 21. After Moshe tells Korach and his people that if they continue this way, they will be punished, Hashem is going to create a new kind of punishment that is going to demonstrate for everybody to know from that point and on that Moshe is supposed to be the leader. Moshe got the Torah from Har Sinai, from Hashem, and all of the Torah from that point on is all Hashem's Torah and cannot be argued against. So at that point, Hashem, he tells the other people, he badlu mitoch ha'edah hazot, go away from this congregation, v'achla otam karaga. And Hashem is speaking, and I will eat them. Achla utam, I will eat them karaga immediately, in a moment. Interestingly, Hashem says that he will destroy Korach and his followers using the word eat, v'achla, v'achale, right? As a reference to destruction, and to eat is to destroy. This is something we need to know. For this is part of the eating process. We don't eat the food and then it just sort of disappears. It goes through a process. It gets destroyed. The enzymes in our body attack the food, break it down into its fats and its minerals and everything else, and that is part of the gastrointestinal cycle that we all need to survive, and that gives us the nourishment that we could not create on our own. One of the miracles of life is that we need these foods. We talked about this last week, I believe, as well. It's worth remembering that the plants and the animals that we eat provide us with nourishment that we cannot get on our own. And it's an amazing thing. Some of those nourishments can only be made from cooking these foods, right? To cook a plant makes it edible. It breaks down its cellulose or whatever for us to be able to absorb in a way that we need for to function and be healthy. It's really a miracle. How did uh, it's you have to wonder, you have to ask, the question: how could ancient people have figured that out on their own? How did they know? Oh, I can't eat this, so I know. I'll put it in the fire and then I'll be able to eat it. That's such a jump, and then and eating it is good for me. And then, and eating it is not just good for me, is essential for me. I cannot live without eating this potato or whatever, choose a vegetable. Potato would be probably not the best example. We were without them until the 1500s. Tomato or squash, right? The people didn't eat raw squash. Ancient people, they couldn't, right? It probably couldn't, it's probably not even easy to get through. But over time, they learned how to cook that vegetables, and that made them not only palatable, but coincidence, if you believe in that, coincidentally, it also made it healthy and important for our nutrition. That's all I'm pointing out. All right. Anyway, but that's so this is something to think about. And when we think about food, that it is kind of destroyed by our chewing, by our digesting. We destroy things, and that's part of the eating process. Okay, chapter 16, verses 30 and 32. We're going to skip 31 for I think. Um, and this is that promise that Moshe makes that Hashem is going to make this new creation, and indeed, he says, "Imbria yivra Hashem." If Hashem creates a new creation, ufatzta adama et pihan, the earth will open its mouth, uvala otam, and swallow them, et kol asher lahem, and everything that belongs to them, v'yardu chaim, and they go down alive, she'ola, into the pit. V'idatem kinyaatsu hanashim ha'ela et Hashem. Then you will know that these people have been aggravating Hashem. And the commentary here, and this is obviously continuation of what we just said. The earth is said to have a mouth with which it swallows Korach and his followers. It gets bigger and smaller like a mouth chewing food. The Midrash tells us it actually literally looked like a mouth going up, right? Eating Korach. This chewing is one aspect of this event that distinguishes it from a natural earthquake in which the hole closes immediately like a mouth chewing food. Says a Sforno on the next verse. Since the items that go into the earth are targeted, perhaps swallowing could mean something more intentional than throwing something down one's throat. Right? We have to. Yeah, and that's our eating is supposed to be, and that's another lesson we can learn from this. Our eating is supposed to be a little more intentional. We don't just grab things and throw it in our mouths. We think about the food we're about to eat. We concentrate on it, and that's why there are different brachot for each food, each kind of food. If it's we have to look at it and say, oh, is this a vegetable? Is this a fruit? It's a blueberry. What kind of blueberry is it? Is it the kind that grows on higher trees or lower bushes? Is it a ha'etz or is it ha'adama? Right? These are all questions. What kind of plant is it? Is it an annual plant or is it a constant plant? A banana is a ha'adama, an apple is a ha'etz. So these kinds of things are things we think about as we're about to eat our food, so that our eating isn't just a random, like I said, just throwing something into your mouth, into your gullet. You're actually you're eating intentionally, and that's probably the most healthy way to eat. In general, almost every diet, almost every health plan is based, a healthy food plan is based on this idea of thinking about what you're eating to really focus on it. Right, as promised, next verse, chapter 16, verse 33. V'yardu lahem l'chol asher lahem, and all of them and everything that is there went down, chayim she'ola, down alive, whole, into the pit. But I can't read that with the red line there. But chas alehem haaretz v'yavdu b'toch hakahal. The earth closed on them, and they were destroyed from among the people. Right? That's how that happened. So according to our sages, that's in Bava Batra at 74a. Korach and his associates are forever in Gehenna, being turned over like meat on a frying pan once every 30 days. There's a whole story there in the Gemara about an Arab merchant who brought one of the Tanaim over into the desert, showed him the hole. We talked about this in previous years. I'm sure I have the whole story, the source and everything written down there. He showed them a hole in the earth from where you can hear Korach's voice to this day, certainly to the day of the Talmud, presumably until today as well, where Korach and his associates every day they say Moshe Emet, Torah Emet, Moshe is true, his Torah is true. So in that story, it continues that these people, Korach and his men, are constantly being turned over, like I said, every 30 days, like meat on a frying pan. It said, I believe some of the commentaries explain that every 30 days means it's happening. It happens on Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is a time for judgment. But anyway, be that as it may, this metaphor indicates that just as we do not intend to destroy the meat when we fry it, right, that's we're not trying to kill the meat. It's already dead. We're trying to enjoy the meat. We're trying to cook it in a right way, not to some of us like our meat rare, but not too rare, right? So medium rare, the best kind of steak, according to most people, right? So either way, so when you're frying it, you don't want it destroyed. You don't want to burn it to a crisp. You want to burn it just right. You want to cook it just right. So too, punishment in Gehenna is meant to cook it, soften it, improve it, and make it pure and perfect for the ultimate world to come. Um, I should say cook the soul, right? Right. So that's the point of Gehinnom is not just to torture and burn and destroy. That burning is a cooking, right? Is a preparation for the ultimate world to come. All right. Chapter 17, verse 23, a whole parak further. Again, the Jewish people are still doubtful about the veracity of Aaron's claim that he should be the Kohen Gadol. It gets a little bit silly at this point, right? We've had miracle upon miracle showing that everything Moshe said is true. So why are they concerned? So there's a number of commentaries on that. Now's not the time. I think we did speak about that in the previous year. But either way, they come up with another test. Moshe gathers from the leaders of all 12 tribes their staff, and among them is our own staff. Puts them in a tent, and overnight, this is what happens, right? Vayhi mimacharat, the next day, Yavo Moshe el ohel ha'edut. Moshe went into the tent of the testimony. V'hine parach mate Aaron. Aaron's dead staff, right? It's a stick. It's been cut off from the earth for God knows how long. We don't even know how long he's had this staff. It's certainly, by this point, at least 40 years old, right? Right? And it grew blossoms. Levet Levi, v'yotze perach, v'yatzitz tzitz, v'gmol shkedim. It was budding, and it put forth buds and bloomed blossoms, and had ripe almonds. Right? It grew almonds. So Aaron's staff sprouts almonds because it is the fastest fruit to sprout, says Rashi. Now, Rashi happens to be, and I think I mentioned this not too long ago, a whole maybe like 15 minutes ago or so. Rashi knows a thing or two about agriculture. It's not like he's a city boy. He has a vineyard. He's a vinter. He makes wine. So he knows a thing or two about growing stuff and trees and plants and things like that. He's aside from being a Talmud Chacham and just being aware of a lot of things that you wouldn't expect. He was involved in that as in his lifestyle in his career. So when he says it's the fastest fruit to sprout, you would think that there would be more evidence to that. So let's read a little bit about almonds and see if a totally non-related Gentile source says anything regarding this. So, in a book called Movable Feasts by Gregory McNamee, I think is the guy's name. McNamee, yeah, good. So he writes like this: the almond then was planted throughout the Mediterranean long ago, both as a food and as a medicine. For almond potions were traditionally used to treat gastrointestinal disorders. By the time the Roman Empire fell, though, its cultivation was concentrated once again in the eastern Mediterranean, perhaps as a result of agricultural specialization. The best wines came from Campania, the best olives from Miletus, and the best wheat from Illyria, the best almonds from the mountain slopes of the Holy Land. So it was for hundreds of years, as the almond trade inevitably became more and more associated with the Arab world, spreading with the Arab conquest of North Africa and Iberia, which is basically Spain. It was in the latter place that the knights of the Holy Roman Empire encountered the almond, bringing trees back to Charlemagne's court at Aachen, I guess, in what is now westernmost Germany. The emperor liked them so much that he ordered them planted in all royal residences, and for some hundreds of years, almonds and pistachios flourished near Paris and throughout the high Poitou region, the Languedoc, and the Provence. Exotic and familiar, the almond took its time to arrive in America for reasons that are unknown, but that suggest a touch of clerical suspicion about its fitness for newly Christianized lands. Even so, the founders of the Spanish missions in what is now California planted almonds as they traveled northward in the 18th century. The cool, foggy coastal climate proved inhospitable, though, and when commercial growers planted almond groves in the 1850s with stock reinforced with New York hybrids, they did so in the hot Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys. That area supplies the entire domestic market, 99.9%, according to Waverly Root, and about half the world market as well, with Spain and Italy making up much of the rest. The Middle East contributes little to the international trade today. Notice almost all almonds today come from California, just about 99.9% of them, and then some. Now, in Hebrew, an almond tree is called a shaked, meaning the waker. Oh, so we've got the Gentile who knows a little something here, since it is among the first plants to bloom in spring, bedecked in beautiful white blossoms. There you go. It is, like Rashi said, one of the first plants to blossom. In the Arab world, the almond is a symbol of hope, for those blossoms appear overnight on hitherto bare branches. So this is something that apparently happens on a regular basis. It's totally bare. It doesn't look like it's going to blossom at all. You wake up in the morning, you look out your trees, and your trees have beautiful, beautiful. These almond trees have these beautiful white blossoms on them. We have a recipe here for probably or the most popular food made out of almonds. It's a dessert called marzipan. I have a recipe there. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but just remember that marzipan should be light and thin, not thick and heavy, says Gregory McNamee. All right, so there you go. That's a little bit there about almonds and how they've grown in popularity or not, and how they went from being a Middle Eastern food to becoming a European food to becoming actually mostly a California food, or grown here anyway, and then sent around the world. Okay, next chapter. Since the Parsha dealt so much with Aaron's leadership and Aaron's right to and responsibility of being a Kohen, so therefore the end of the Parsha talks about his gifts, the gifts that we all give to the Kohanim, etc., and the responsibilities that he has with the food, again, food, with those gifts. Okay, chapter 18, verse 8. Vidabar Hashem el Aaron. Hashem spoke to Aaron. It was his prophecy directly to Aaron himself. Vani hinei natati lecha. Here, behold, I'm giving you, at mishmeret trumati, the charge, the responsibility to guard my trumatai, your trum, right? V'chol kadshe b'nei Yisrael lecha netatim lemashcha, and all the holy things of the children of Israel I've given to you. Right? To your sons, lechak olam, to be a portion forever. I don't like do here. It's not a do, it's chok. It's a portion. All right. All right, so Kohanim are supposed to eat the sacrifices in the same respectable way the kings would eat, the Gemara says in Zvachim 91a. Now, this is now going to be a long quote from Rav Hirsch. On the one hand, the people are obligated to separate truma from the produce that has reached a finished state, and so long as this has not been done, the product is tevel and is forbidden. In the same way that people learn that their whole material existence depends on their observance of the Torah. So on the one hand, let's just break it down a little bit, make it easier. On the one hand, this is the people's hand, let's call it. Or the next hand is going to be the Kohen's hand. And this, on the side of focusing on the people and why they have to take truma, it's important for them. They learn something from this. They learn that their behavior affects their success. Their material existence depends on their observance of the Torah. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, what does the Kohen get out of receiving the truma? On the other hand, the Kohen's whole existence depends on these gifts dedicated by the people to Hashem and to his Torah. Every morsel of bread that the Kohen eats reminds and admonishes him the Torah and the sanctuary in whose service he stands are not a monopoly of the Kohanim, rather they are the sanctuary of the nation, and only as the representative of the nation was he appointed by Hashem as a servant of the Torah and the sanctuary. His whole existence depends on the Torah and its sanctuary, and he is unworthy of this bread unless he and his household, which is supported by the bread of the sanctuary, contribute to the blossoming of the sanctuary of the Torah and set a shining example to the people. So again, we have two sides here, two sides of the coin. On the one hand, you have the people and why it's good for them that they're giving truma. And on the other hand, you have the Kohanim and what the truma is supposed to teach them. It's supposed to remind them that they're not Kohanim because they're a greater people. They have a responsibility. Their responsibility is to live up to this greatness. And if they don't, then they're not worthy of the gifts that they're receiving. It's a payment for their good behavior. So both of them are learning the lesson. There's a lesson being learned from the truma on both sides, from the giving end and from the receiving end. Okay, next verse, chapter 18, verse 9. This will be yours from the holy things. Min ha'esh, from the fire. Kol karbanam l'chol minchatam v'chol chatatam, from all the sacrifices and all the minchas and all the sin offerings. L'chol ashamam asher yishivuli, and from all of the guilt offerings of theirs. Kodesh kadashim l'chahu ulvanecha. They are holy for you and for your sons. Now, Kohanim are supposed to eat from these things. There's from these sacrifices. They're supposed to not eat the whole thing sometimes, some of it, but they're supposed to eat from it. So the commentary here says, unlike the gifts of the Kohanim, which are of lesser holiness, these gifts can only be eaten in the holy place, because as gifts from the fire, as we said, Me'aish, they really belong to the Mizbeach, which is Hashem, but are given to the Kohanim as though from Hashem's table. So they must be eaten in the holy place. Says the Sforno. So again, we have this idea again. Food again is the central way to demonstrate the holiness of a thing. Okay, next verse, chapter 18, verse 10. B'kodesh hakadashim tochlenu, in the holy of holies you're going to eat it. Kol zachar yochal oto kodesh yelach. Every male may eat from it; it shall be holy to you. These are the male kohanim. Only in the Azara, only in the temple courtyard can eat kodesh kadashim, says Rashi. Furthermore, these offerings must be eaten in a certain time until the following daybreak, and certain place, obviously within the temple courtyard, which is what makes them more holy than other offerings. So again, the distinction it's just fast. This is from the Ramban. The distinction to how do you know something is very very holy? Where can you eat it? When can you eat it? It always comes down to eating, basically. So that's the distinction between holy or less holy and more holy things. Chapter 18, verse 12. Kol chelev yitzhar, all of your best wine, v'chol chelev tirosh v'dagan, and all the best of your all of the sorry chelev yitzhar, all of the best of your oil, v'chol chelev tirosh v'dagan, and the best of your wine and of your grain. Reishitam asher yitnu laHashem lechat nedatim. The first part of them which they give to Hashem, to you I give them. So in other words, Hashem is saying they are going to bring these things. They're going to bring these firsts, these bests of their stuff, and I'm going to give them back to you. You get them. You Kohanim get them because they are gifts of the best, and they're gifts to me. So I am sharing them with you. That's the privilege of being a Kohen. And one of the lessons that's learned from this, according to the call of the Torah, and I think he gets this from the Rambam, if I'm not mistaken, worth reviewing. But I think Rav Monk gets this from the Rambam. When you have to give something of your own for a holy purpose, it is important to always give the best of your possessions. This again, we've talked about this before, especially in the context of Cain and Hevel back in the beginning of the world's creation, where the first brother basically gave of his trash, his the leftovers to Hashem, whereas what he was supposed to give is of the best. Okay, chapter 18, verse 15. Kol petarechem, kol basar asher yakruvu Hashem, all the things that open the womb of all the flesh, which they offer to Hashem. So the firstborn of animals, ba'adam of a behema, of man and of animal, yelach loch, will be yours. So this is why we redeem the firstborn sons of families that are not from Kohanim or Leviim. The firstborn son is if the firstborn is a son, is redeemed to Hashem. As poda tifde et bechor ha'adam et bechor ha'behemat meya tifde. Even the firstborn of man you shall redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals shall you redeem. And the firstborn of unclean animals, we're talking here about the famous Peter Chamor, the donkey, that is supposed to be redeemed if it is a firstborn. This verse is a source of the law that teaches that a kosher animal needs to look like its parent's species. In other words, if an animal is born, let's say a cow gives birth to something that looks like a pig, right? Doesn't look like a cow for whatever reason. It's some sort of deformation of some sort. It's not a kosher animal. You cannot eat that animal. It's not because it is a pig, but because there's something clearly wrong with it. It's unhealthy to eat that animal. What do you do instead? I don't know. That's not that's not in my pay grade. All right. Vet bechor shor or bechor kesev or bechor eis lo tifdeh, but the first born of your ox or sheep or goat you don't redeem. Why? Right? Kodeshem, they are holy. Et damam tizrok al mizbeach, their blood is supposed to be dashed on the mizbeach. Vet chalban taktir, and their fat is supposed to be made into smoke. Isha l'reach nichoach laHashem, they're supposed to be sacrificed. They're given as the bechorim, as to Hashem. And one of the reasons liver is permitted, by the way, the liver of an animal, according to the Gemara in Chulin 109, is allowed to be eaten. The reason why, it's not. It is some work to kosher a liver. You have to, put it on a slanty maybe I should write more about the details here eventually, but they have to be put on a slanted um, tray that has holes in it, and it's supposed to be basically roasted like that until all of its blood comes out, turned over every once in a while. So there's halachas about how to prepare a liver to be eaten, but once it is able to be eaten, it's considered a very healthy part of the animal to eat. But how do you know it's even kosher? There's so much blood in it. How is it kosher at all? Because here you have that proof the Kohanim are allowed to eat it. If the Kohanim are allowed to eat it in their sacrifices, so then we're allowed to eat it as well. That's something that it says in the Aruch HaShulchan Yeridea on that topic. Okay, just a few more comments here today. Let's talk about salt. Let's not get too salty about it. Chapter 18, verse 19. Kol Trumot HaKadashim, all the Truma offerings of the holy things, Asher Yeruma B'nai Yisrael Hashem, that B'nai Yisrael give to Hashem, Natati L'cha U'V'necha Livnotecha Itcha, I'm going to give to you, your sons and your daughters with you. The daughters can partake of this as well. L'chok Olam, again, for this an everlasting portion forever. And Brit Melach Olam Hi L'fnei Hashem L'cha Ol Zarecha Itach, and it is an everlasting covenant of salt before Hashem to you and to your seed with you. Okay, and Hashem in His Torah calls a promise to Aaron that the Kahuna would always remain in his descendants a quote covenant of salt. Why? Because salt is considered healthy in its ability to not spoil and its ability to preserve other items. So salt itself, by the way, doesn't spoil. It's an amazing thing, right? You can have salt from ancient times, and it works just as well as the most recently mined salt, right? It does not spoil, and it preserves other things. That is true as long as the salt is used in a proper, healthy amount. Just like the Kohanim should be careful regarding the proper use of their higher level of holiness. Another thing, right? Too much salt is not healthy. Too much of anything is not healthy, and that's another important lesson about food and about how we use our holiness. There's a statement of our sages that any rule of the mincha offering that Hashem in His Torah repeats is an essential law of the offering. Salt is not repeated. So regarding the use of salt, it is essential because it is in our verse here. It is called everlasting. It is forever, and it would even have been placed on sacrifices performed on a bama when those were permitted to be used. This from the Meshech Chochmah, he says that. So what's a bama? Just a quick reminder that in the time period before between the Mishkan and the building of the first Beit HaMikdash, that's about almost 400 years or so. So in that time, the Jews were allowed to have a personal altar in their own homes, like right next to your barbecue was your altar, and there you could make sacrifices to Hashem. You didn't have to go all the way to the Mishkan in Shiloh to do this, and until there was a Beit HaMikdash, you could do this on your own. Anybody could do it. You didn't have to call your neighborhood Kohen over to your house to perform this. You could do this yourself. And even then, says the Meshech Chochmah, you still have to use salt. That's the chiddush here. That even though it seems like salt is connected to the kahuna and to that process, so even though you weren't using a kohen to do this sacrifice, you would still have to use salt. Salt acts as a preservative, and so to the Kohanim, even if a minority of them lose some of their holy status by going astray, Hashem is promising that in every generation, the covenant for the Kohanim in staying holy is going to be preserved forever. There will always be Kohanim, says Rabbi David Feinstein. All right. Eating salt was considered healthy in Talmudic times, especially after eating other foods. However, in the making of an eruv, nutritional food must be used, and neither water nor salt fit that qualification. Some authorities equate high sodium with intelligence. Furthermore, the symbolism of the need for spice to improve things is that nothing should come easy in life. Salt, yeast, and humility are listed as items that require a delicate balance. There's an opinion that one can fulfill the obligation with sugar instead. By the way, you can the obligation. There's an opinion in halachot gedolot that you can even use sugar to salt meat when you're trying to get the blood out of it. But most people do not do that. It's considered not very feasible. Anyway, chapter 18, verse 26. ואלווים תדבר, אמרת עליהם, כי תיקחו מאת בני ישראל את המעשר אשר נתתי לכם מאיתם, בנחלכם, והרמותם, והרמותם, right? ממנו תרומת השם, מעשר מן המעשר. Moreover, you shall speak to the Leviim and say to them, when you take of the children of Israel the tithe which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then you shall set apart of it a gift of Hashem, even a tithe of the tithe. In other words, even the Leviim had to take some portion of the gift that they were receiving to give over as a gift as well. How is this related to food? I'm glad you asked. There's a debate in the Gemara in Bava Batra, 84b. There's a debate there if wine and vinegar are the same species, because they seem to be interchangeable in terms of the tithe that can be given. There's a debate. I don't have an answer for whether they're considered the same species. I can tell you one thing though: if a recipe calls for wine, don't put vinegar, and if a recipe calls for vinegar, probably don't put wine, unless it's wine vinegar. All right. Anyway, so chapter 18, verse 27. Two more comments here today. V'nechshav lachem trumatchem kedagan min hagoren v'amalea min hayakev. The gift which you set apart shall be reckoned for you as though it were the grain of the threshing floor and as the fullness of the winepress. Despite the fact that it is measured and blessings do not come through things that are measured, the tithe of the Levium brings blessing to the home. It's this footnote says this. The idea is that if you're able to see something and count it, then blessing won't appear in it, because Hashem wants blessing to come sort of without being noticed. And if you're counting it, then it's going to be noticed. So, but that doesn't mean that's not the same with tithe, which has to be counted. Obviously, it's 10% of something, so you have to be able to count it, and it still brings blessing. So that's the chiddush there. Chapter 18, verse 30. Therefore, ve'amarta alehem b'harimchem et chelbo. When you set apart the chela, the fat, the best of something, mimenu v'nechshav leViim, and you should give it to the Leviim. You count it out for the Leviim. Kitvuat goren chtuat yakev. It should be like the increase of the threshing floor and the increase of the winepress. The best part of a Levi's grain is given to the Kohen, and the root of the word chelev, or fat, is because it is fit to be sanctified like chelev. Says I think this is the Ramban, the Ramban in Vayikra. Now that's why it's called chelev. When we're talking about it, it's because it's just like chelev is sanctified in the sacrifices, so too is this sanctified and as a holy thing, this food that we're giving to the Leviim. Thank you for joining me for the class. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and hope you enjoyed. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Quick note, technical note. Next week will probably not be a class, and therefore I strongly recommend that you go see other classes on Kukat Balak. It's a double portion, and there are other classes available, several hours of classes on our YouTube channel. Join, subscribe, and enjoy. Have a Shabbat Shalom.